On a spring night in 1973, 18-year-old Marian Beattie left a charity dance expecting to go home with her family. She never made it back. Just hours later, her body was found at the bottom of a nearby Quarry in County Tyrone. For more than 5 decades, no one was charged with her murder. The case became one of Northern Ireland's oldest unsolved killings. Then, 53 years later, police announced a major breakthrough. A man in his 70s has been arrested in connection with Marian's death. But after all this time, would investigators finally uncover the truth, or would the mystery continue? Marian Beattie was 18 years old and lived in Portadown, County Armagh. Friends and family described her as kind, caring, and someone who enjoyed spending time with those close to her. On the evening of March 30, 1973, she traveled to a charity dance at Hadden's garage, Aughnacloy. She went with her best friend and her older brother, Isidore, who was performing there with his band. Nothing about that evening suggested it would become one of Northern Ireland's longest-running murder investigations. Yet, before sunrise, Marian would be gone, and her family would begin a search that would change their lives forever. As the dance came to an end in the early hours of March 31st, Marian was seen leaving the venue with a young man. Detectives say the pair walked toward the nearby car park beside Hadden Quarry, only a few hundred yards from the dance hall. Marian had planned to meet her brother for the journey home. She never arrived. When she could not be found, concern quickly turned into panic. Searches began, and shortly after 6 in the morning, her body was discovered at the bottom of the Quarry. The scene immediately raised difficult questions. Investigators did not believe this was simply a tragic accident. They began treating it as a murder investigation. The evidence collected at the Quarry suggested something violent had happened before Marian fell. According to investigators, a piece of metal found near her body was believed to have been used during the attack. Police also documented unusual details at the scene, including personal clothing items and other evidence that became important during the investigation. Detectives focused on identifying the man last seen leaving the dance with Marian. They appealed to everyone who attended the event, hoping someone would remember who she spoke with or what happened after she left. Despite those efforts, the investigation soon reached a dead end, and the person believed to be with Marian that night was never publicly identified. Years turned into decades without an arrest. Marian's family continued asking police to keep investigating. Over time, the case was reviewed several times as new investigative methods became available. Police later examined how the original investigation had been handled and identified significant shortcomings. The report said some investigative opportunities had been missed and recommended further independent review. Those findings helped place fresh attention on Marian's case and increased pressure for renewed investigative work. The Police Service of Northern Ireland's Legacy Investigation Branch eventually took over the review, using modern investigative techniques and encouraging new witnesses to come forward. One fact remained central through the investigation. Marian was last seen walking away from the dance with the man shortly after 1 in the morning. Police repeatedly appealed to anyone who attended the charity dance to remember even the smallest detail. Detectives also asked whether anyone remembered someone returning home that night looking distressed or with dirt on their clothes. Investigators believed the memory that seemed unimportant in 1973 could still help solve the case decades later. Those appeals suggested detectives believed the answer had always existed somewhere among the people who were present that night. In July 2026, the investigation took its biggest step in decades. The PSNI announced that detectives had arrested a man in his 70s in connection with Marian Beattie's murder. He was questioned by investigators before later being released on bail. While inquiries continued, police have not announced any criminal charges, and the investigation remains active. The arrests mark the first public announced arrest connected to Marian's murder in more than half a century, showing that detectives still believe the case can be solved despite the passage of time. The confirmed evidence tells us several important things. Marian left the dance with a man. She never returned to meet her brother. Hours later, she was found dead at the bottom of the quarry. Detectives have continued treating the case as murder, and modern investigators have spent years reviewing the original evidence and witness accounts. One possible interpretation is that someone who attended the dance knew more than they revealed at the time. This is not proof of guilt, and police have never publicly confirmed who was responsible. However, the repeated appeals aimed specifically at people who attend that event suggest investigators believe witnesses may still hold information capable of moving the case forward. The limitation of this theory is clear. Unless new evidence, reliable witness testimony, or forensic findings connect someone directly to the crime, it remains only an interpretation based on the direction of the investigation. Today, Marian murder remains officially unsolved. The recent arrest has renewed hope for her family after 53 years of waiting. However, an arrest alone does not establish guilt, and no conviction has been secured. Detectives continue examining evidence and following investigative leads. The PSNI has asked anyone with information, no matter how small it may seem, to come forward. For Marian family, the goal has never changed. They want answers about what happened during those missing hours in 1973. 53 years is longer than many investigations ever survive. Witnesses grow older, memories fade, evidence becomes harder to examine. Yet Marian Beattie's case refused to disappear. The recent arrest proves investigators still believe the truth can be uncovered. The biggest unanswered question is no longer whether this case matters. It is whether the evidence collected after more than half a century will finally provide the answer Marian's family has spent a lifetime waiting to hear.